Hey, what's going on, everybody? Back with another how-to. Today we're going to be replacing the rear shocks on this 2009 Nissan Pathfinder. Now this should fall in line with any third-gen Nissan Pathfinder, which is 2005 to 2012. So let's get into it now. Alright guys, so we are here on the passenger side. I already did the driver, so they are exactly the same. Both sides is going to be the same process, same everything, so you don't have to worry about that. I do have it jacked up. You can see I have it jacked right from behind the rear diff. So here's the jacking points for this vehicle. As you can see, you can go behind the rear diff as I did. That's all I have. Or you can go under here, utilize the rails. You can jack it from the rear diff, put jack stands on the rails. You can do whatever you want. I'm kind of being a little bit, risky, just throwing that on there and leaving it, but it should be fine. But that's your jacking points, guys. Do what you feel safe and comfortable with. I just have it on the rear diff, so let's go ahead and get this wheel off. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get the wheel off here. Now the lug nuts are a 21 mil, so I just have a 21 on an impact. And we're gonna go ahead and fire all 6 of these right out. All right guys, here is the reason we're doing this. So the other side all but crumbled when I took it out, and I'm sure this one is right there as well. Yep, look at that. Straight rusted out, guys. So this is a 09 and rear shocks are original, obviously, completely rusted out. And that is why we are doing the job. So this is a pretty straightforward job. It's only 2 bolts holding it in, so nothing too crazy. We have 19 mils on the upper and lower bolts. Okay, so you will need another jack to do this job. You're obviously going to need to jack the vehicle up and need a spare jack to help you get this back in. And I like putting it underneath to take the bolt out just for some support, so when it's coming out of the back here, it's not going to strip the bolt from it, losing its tension by removing the bolt. So if you look here, you can see here's where the bolt is going in. Once it comes through and starts going through the shock, it'll start dropping this arm a little bit, and then when you pull it out this side, it does kind of drag its way out on the metal, and you don't want to strip that bolt. So I like putting the jack under there from the rip. Just put enough pressure that it's stable, and then what we're going to do is fire that 19 mil right out. You could use a breaker bar, you can use a ratchet, whatever tool of your choice. I'm using an impact, much easier. Would suggest investing in one if you don't have one and you plan on DIYing other things in the future. So 19 mil, let's go ahead and get this lower bolt out. All right, that thing is just about out there. See if I can get it to fully come out. All right, so she's stuck a little bit, which might happen. Another one flew out for me on the other side, so this one's going to fight me a little bit more, of course, because we're recording it. But you could take a pry bar, you could take a wrench like I'm doing, and just kind of work it out. All right, it might have a little bit of tension on it, even some tension from me on the jack, but I'm going to take a little bit of the tension off. All right guys, I just moved the jack a hair up, and now I think I got it's got enough room to get it out, so I don't even need to pry on it or mess with it. I just jacked it up a hair more to get a little bit of that tension off the bolt, and then bang, it is out. So lower bolt obviously out. Let's go ahead and get that upper one out. All right, so here is our upper bolt. It's a little bit tighter in here. It's going to be a little harder to get to. It is also a 19 mil. On the bottom, you have the nut that's welded in. This one has a removable nut. So what we're going to do is remove that nut from the upper part of the strut, and then we're going to knock the bolt out from the back here. So it's a 19 mil. I'm going to use a ratchet. I'm going to put a 19 mil wrench on the bolt side over here, and then I'm just going to put a 19 mil ratchet on this side, and we're going to go ahead and wrench that thing right off. So let's get that 19 mil nut off. All right, so like I mentioned, it is a 19 mil. What I found to be the easiest setup, what I use on the other side, is I have about a 2-inch extension here. This is a half drive socket wrench that is extendable, so I have leverage. All right, so that's what I'm going to be using. So 19 mil deep with a 2-inch extension should get you right on it. So let me sneak this thing in here. Should be able to get right on top of it. There it is, guys. I don't know if you can see that. I got the camera between my legs and I'm probably moving it all over the place, but there we go. I did get that 19 mil nut to break free. There we go. I'll probably spin it on the other side. Let me see. No, not yet. But I'm gonna go ahead and we're gonna throw the 19 mil wrench here on the bolt side. Get that on there nice and tight. And then let's flip this bad boy around. There we go. And then all I'm gonna do is inch this thing off with our socket wrench, and we should have this 19 mil nut and bolt out in no time. There we go, guys. You can hear that. She is coming off, and this other side is spinning on me now, so definitely going to need to utilize a wrench on the opposite side, and that way you can inch this thing out without it spinning on you. All right, so I'm just going to slowly back this thing out, and once I have the nut off, we'll go ahead and get the bolt out, and I'll show you how we'll do that. All right, guys, so you see, nut is free. She just hit the ground, but all good. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to lightly give this a tap on the end with a hammer. I mean lightly. You got to be extremely careful because you don't want to deform the bolt. You could even leave the nut on to do this, but I mean honestly, with this little hammer that I got, I mean, you can see you're not getting much not getting much pressure out of that, just enough to get that thing to move. So now that I got that going, what I'm going to do is take a punch. So I have a small punch here, all right, and I'm just going to lightly hit this punch to get that bolt out. So some light blows. All right, so now I got a little bit better room here, and that's going in. I can utilize the punch. I'm sorry, I know I'm hitting the camera, but you know, only so much room here to work and record. And it's out, guys. I'm sure you probably heard that thing hit the ground. All right, so there we go, nut and bolt out. So now we can go ahead and pull this shock out. So she is rusty. I hope she ain't gonna crumble too much on me, but yeah, she popped right out. So now all you gotta do, drop it right to the bottom right there. All right, so here is our old crusty rusty shock. All right, guys, so we got a little old versus new action. As I already mentioned, I did the other side. This was the one from the driver, and I mean, man, look at this thing. This thing was ready to just crumble. I can't believe it was even supporting the vehicle and not rusting a little bit more up here. But yeah, you can see both of these gone. So what I did is I got some KYB Excel Gs. These are great shocks, you know, struts. You can get them for pretty much any application. I've utilized them numerous times on different applications. Usually are really good. So that's what we went with. In particular for this vehicle, on the part number, it is 345056. All right, 345056. That is the KYB rear shock number. So there it is. There is our new rear shock. Let's go ahead and get this thing installed. All right, guys. So new strut here. What you're going to do is just feed it up through the bottom. So you can see I'm going under the rubber brake hose and just putting it right back into its place. You want to try to get the holes in the best orientation possible as you're doing this. You're probably not going to get them exactly perfect, but I would try to get them as perfect as you can to make it easier on yourself when you go to put these things back in. So I got it about in there. It's not too bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get the top bolt through first. We're going to start that, then we're going to utilize the jack to align the bottom bolt, and then once we got them both started and grabbing and, you know, threading in, we'll get both of them tightened and torque the spec. So let's get that upper bolt in. All right, guys, so there you can see I pretty much just popped that into its alignment hole. Okay, so there we go. That's about where it needs to be. I'm gonna go ahead and take our bolt and press it through the back here. So remember, the nut is facing the rear. All right, there we go, bolt through. All right, go ahead and take our nut and get that thing started. All right, we're just gonna thread it on just to get it started. So I'm not gonna worry about getting it all the way on at the moment. We just wanted to get it started, because now what I'm gonna do is place this bottom mount here. We're gonna go ahead and mess with this bottom mount now and go ahead and get this thing aligned. So let's see if we can look through that hole. You can see it's a bit off. So what I want to utilize here is the jack. And if you see, I'm pressing the jack and it's got us pretty close. All right, so you might even need to put it in like that, start it, and it might grab here now. It might start threaded in. If not, you might need to give it the tiniest hit on the jack to get it to start threading. So that is a possibility. You know, you might get it through that front hole and then it might not quite grab on that rear to start threading. So you just got to kind of play with the jack, but you shouldn't have to move it or maneuver it too much. It should start threaded it in, but don't force it. At this point right now, we just want to use hand strength. So you can use a very small ratchet or just do like this, like I have, and I'm going to try to start threading that thing in. And then once it grabs, then you can worry about actually, you know, getting it going and all that. I think I actually got it started, so see if I can see on this other side. I think it might be going in, guys. So let me make sure. I'm just going to look from the other side, but I think we got it going. And then once we have both of these started, we can go ahead and get them tight and then torque them to spec. All right, guys, might be hard to see here, but the bolt is coming through. You see that thing, she's about to pop right out. So there we go, got that thing threaded in. All I had to do is just tap the jack a hair to get it to fall into alignment, and it'll, you know, start catching and threading in. So that's good. Just got to get this upper nut here threaded on. And what I want to do is get these tight just by hand, and once I got them fully tight, we're going to torque both of these bolts to spec. All right, guys, so I have both of these bolts just about finger tight, you know, pretty tight. Just need to get this little torque action here so we can lock them in. So the torque spec for both of these 19 mil shock bolts is 129 foot-pounds. Okay, so that's pretty tight, so make sure you tread carefully, but I do have my torque wrench locked in here to 129. So go ahead and start with the bottom one, and then we'll get that top one locked in. But like I said, it's pretty tight, 129, but that is the torque spec, as you see from the factory service manual blowout. So let's go ahead and get this thing locked in. There we go, guys, got that bottom one locked in, and all I got to do is the same thing for the top. And I would, you know, do the same thing you did to take it off. We're going to put a 19 mil wrench on the bolt side and then just torque on the nut to 129, and we should be good to go. All right, guys, there we go. Both 19 mils now locked in, 129 foot-pounds. So we are good to go, guys. This job is not too hard. Hardest thing is getting that top bolt broken loose, I would say, and maybe getting that bottom one aligned when you put it back in. So on removal, it's like I said, it's a little tight in here, and then on installation, it's just about getting that bottom aligned. But there we go, guys. That is it. We got both rear shocks installed. So I hope this helped with doing the rear shocks on your 3rd gen Nissan Pathfinder. Make sure you stay tuned, because you never know when I might be wrenching on this thing again. And until next time, guys.